So, what does my dad, a retiree in Tampere, Finland, have in common with Sanna Marin, the former Prime Minister of Finland? And what does Aino Marcio Aalto, after whom they've named this beautiful new building, have in common with Elon Musk, the wealthiest man on earth? Not much, right? But they are all entrepreneurs. At one point, they all decided that they were going to go ahead and start a business. So I study entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship. So I study people who start businesses. And as you can see, that includes a wide variety of individuals and types of businesses. So in the next couple of minutes, I'm going to share with you some findings from the last 25 years or so of research that I've been engaged in. I've entered areas of research looking at entrepreneurial individuals, entrepreneurial companies, and entrepreneurial communities. And every time I go into a new research area, I have some assumptions of how things should work. But when I let go of those assumptions, when I actually listen to the entrepreneurs and let the data speak, what I see is that the assumptions are oftentimes not exactly right, and entrepreneurs keep on surprising me. Maybe most importantly, what I've found is that the metrics that we use at business school to measure success, financial metrics at the company level, are not enough to capture the impact that entrepreneurs have. So you would think that the prevalence of entrepreneurship means that the discipline of entrepreneurship would have been around for a long time, but that's not true. Entrepreneurship as a scholarly area of research is relatively new at business schools. So when I started my research in the early 2000s, scholars in business schools in entrepreneurship were busy at work legitimizing their work and establishing the field as an independent area of research. They were oftentimes using theories from economics and corporate strategy and applying those theories to entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship, and oftentimes finding that their predictions did not exactly pan out. In this context, my early research looked at technology ventures and how their resources and how their strategic orientations helped them succeed. So more specifically, my early research looked at biotechnology companies, early stage ventures that had just been launched to bring technologies to markets. I thought that those biotechnology ventures that they stay close to their potential customers and learn about their markets would be more profitable and grow faster than other types of companies. I was able to revisit the sample companies I had 7 years later, and what I saw was not exactly what I was expecting to see. So the companies who invested in their market knowledge, in their business development early on, actually ended up being acquired more often than those other companies in the sample. So I didn't find profitable growth. Instead, I found acquisitions. In fact, almost a third of the companies in my sample had been acquired within that 7-year period of time. A lot of my research since then has focused more on entrepreneurial individuals. So I've studied motivations and thinking of entrepreneurs. Now, a rational entrepreneur should take action if the risks of doing so are lower than the perceived rewards of what can follow, right? The risks that we think that entrepreneurs take vary greatly from one place to another. So what we can think of here in Finland as the risks that entrepreneurs take, oftentimes we think about the capital that they may lose if the business goes under. But the truth is that there's places around the world where entrepreneurs risk a lot more when they go into business. They risk their reputation, they sometimes risk their family relationships, their health, sometimes even their freedom. One of the places where I studied entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship is Afghanistan. And I should say this was Afghanistan before Taliban retook power in 2021. My colleague Amanda Ballou and we studied female entrepreneurs in this environment where the traditional place for a woman is at home taking care of children and family. We wanted to understand why and how, in this context, some women still chose to start businesses and how did they make them thrive. We wanted to understand first and foremost their risk perceptions. Being a female entrepreneur in Afghanistan must be incredibly risky, right? Well, when we listened to the stories of the women entrepreneurs and we wanted to hear about the risks that they are taking, they did not tell us anything about any risks. What they shared with us were stories of how the businesses that they were running were part of their everyday lives, and actually how running the business helped them deal with adversities in other domains of life. So we heard a lot of stories of resilience. In the words of one of the women who we interviewed for this study, she said, "When we want to open a business, we face challenges. When we start it, we face challenges. And it makes us stronger, makes us begin to do something so that we can be optimistic for our future, our lives, and for our country." In the last 10 years or so, I've studied oftentimes entrepreneurial communities. So these are sometimes called entrepreneurial ecosystems these days. One of the first communities that I got involved with was the community of entrepreneurs with disabilities in Chicago. And from there, I expanded my research and I worked alongside many of the entrepreneur support organizations that work across the city of Chicago. As you may know, Chicago is one of the most segregated cities in the United States. In fact, they say it's the most segregated major metropolitan area in the United States. So what that means is that the different neighborhoods of the city have very different demographic and economic profiles. There are dozens of organizations that work across the city, and they try to help entrepreneurs from these communities build their businesses, and the goal is ultimately to lift up the communities. So I worked alongside many of these entrepreneur support organizations, and I've learned about their work and how they support entrepreneurs. And if there's one thing that I've learned that I think is a key to what makes these programs successful and helps entrepreneurs, is that those programs, they build structures and they have initiatives where entrepreneurs are brought together to support each other. So economic theory tells us a lot about competition, and yes, entrepreneurs are competitive. But what I've seen in my work across the disability community, as well as the underserved communities of Chicago, is that entrepreneurs want to support each other. They want to share. If one of them becomes successful, they want to come back. They want to become mentors to others who can follow in their footsteps. They want to share. They want to learn together. They share about their failures and their successes. So as you can see, in all of these areas, I've been surprised many times by what entrepreneurs create and what success and impact means for various entrepreneurs. So with this, you would think that we would have a lot of information and knowledge already on the kinds of impacts that are relevant for entrepreneurs across the world. I hope to create that kind of knowledge through my work myself, and I think it's highly relevant not only for entrepreneurship research, but business schools in general, which are highly applied in their research. So entrepreneurship is very prevalent. If you are the average representatives of Finland, and if there's 100 of you in this room, then 17 of you are actually involved in starting a business, or you already have a business that you're running. So it's really important for us to support the success of all of these entrepreneurs, regardless of what success means for them. Why have I been surprised? Why did I find acquisitions instead of risk-taking? Why did I find resilience and supportive communities instead of cutthroat competition? I believe that the reason is that entrepreneurs create exactly the kinds of businesses and outcomes that they want to create. I see acquisitions because those entrepreneurs want to reap the financial benefits from the companies that they start, and they want to see the technologies moving to markets through companies that are closer to the markets and have more resources to take them there. I see resilience because entrepreneurs use their companies to deal with adversities in other domains of life. And I see supportive communities because entrepreneurs want to learn and be together with like-minded people. So given this prevalence of entrepreneurship, it is surprising that still today, much of our business research has focused on firm-level outcomes. We know a lot about firm financial performance. We know a lot about innovation. We know a lot about growth. But we still know relatively little about the impact that entrepreneurs have on the more individual level, on their families, and on their communities. So questions like, how does entrepreneurship impact one's well-being and health? Or what happens after entrepreneurship? Once somebody closes a business, what are their possible career trajectories thereafter? So as for these entrepreneurs, I know they all had impact. We have an economy where few new businesses create thousands of jobs. But what we do have are thousands of entrepreneurs who are creating micro-businesses, just like my father did. If the goal of bringing a technology to global markets is the goal for maybe 1 out of 100 entrepreneurs, then I think we should study the metrics that are also relevant for that 99% of entrepreneurs. I'm looking forward to continuing this work here at Aalto. Thanks for your attention.